Welcome to Podcast on Infinite Earths, an unofficial DC Studios podcast. I'm your host, Tyson.
And I'm your host, Porter.
And we're writers, editors, and part-time filmmakers who love superheroes. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, today we are breaking down the finale episode of Peacemaker Season 2. Porter, how do you think it went?
I think overall it went really well. I have to say, though, I do have some thoughts surrounding it. And it's more of like a meta thought because of like the conversation surrounding it, not necessarily the episode itself, but we'll get into that in the end. But I mean, to start off, the recap was like really hefty. Like it covered everything. And I do wonder if, as we discussed last episode, that James Gunn was like, I don't know, like season 3 of Peacemaker is not like a sure thing. This recap definitely made it feel like it was a grand finale at the beginning.
You're so right. I mean, they really touched on just about every arc that had come to pass in this season. They really kind of tied up just about every loose end, except for like the final loose end that they just handed to us. But you're right. Like they kind of set it up as like, this is kind of like an established thing. And there's, like you said, James Gunn talked about it, you know, having room in the new DC universe, but not being like a necessary like continuation on this specific story.
Yeah, I'll discuss it once we actually talk about the like cliffhanger ending. It doesn't super feel like, I don't know, cut away like 6 minutes. Yeah, it feels like the absolute ending of the show, right? But I'm jumping really far ahead.
That's fair. We can break down kind of the ramifications
because I want to like be able to talk spoilers freely, you know. But I mean, to start off, we get the date that Harcourt and Peacemaker go on, which it's a lot of fun. They're at a burger joint and they chat it up and they're having a really great time.
He's
There's
singing,
great chemistry.
she's laughing. Yeah, it's like strangely wholesome.
Yeah.
Which felt off because of all of like the kind of messed up interactions that we've had between those two in these last few episodes.
Totally. Yeah, we finally get to see throughout the episode, it happens in like 2 separate chunks, but we finally get to see what happened on the boat. And they just went to a concert and they kissed, and that's all it was. And
it once again was just like a really pretty wholesome moment. And they went really like over the top with the cinematography, right? They gave it like that really like glam rock kind of like sparkly
slow-mo, like
yeah, like it had all the feels there, which like she like immediately like kind of lost it. You could tell that she was like very scared of that kind of like closeness with him.
Totally. And later, do you want to get into it? I'm just, because it's on this topic, I don't know, like
fair enough. I mean,
Chris asks like, what did it mean for like the last time? And Harcourt's like, it meant everything.
Yeah.
And Chris is pumped about it.
He was very excited. Yeah. Yeah. So they kind of start off with this like 1 month ago, really wholesome, you know, this is how things were. We drop into this title sequence, which watching that through again, once again, they really just killed it on song choice, and the choreography is really fun. I mean, they made such a stylistic choice in season 1, and I'm just really glad that they stuck with it in season 2 and then just gave it like a fresh spin for the new vibe.
Oh, absolutely.
Just excellent. Thoroughly enjoy watching that. But yeah, we're taken immediately into Chris being in prison because that's where we ended last episode, and it seems low-key enough. I mean, we aren't getting like him in prison fights or getting recruited into another Suicide Squad. He's really just chilling.
We only ever see him in a cell.
Yeah. And
not for very long.
No. Guard comes in with a clipboard telling him who's there to see him, and he doesn't want to see his friends. He kind of believes he's cursed, and he refers to himself as the Angel of Death, which I found humorous, and the guard also started laughing at him for. And we kind of just realized that's kind of the position Chris is in right now, is he just wants to stay holed up in this box that he's found himself in because he feels like it's safer for everybody else, right? That really classic trope of just like, stay away, I'll only hurt you kind of thing.
Totally. We do get like most of this episode is spent not on Peacemaker. A very, very big chunk of it, I'd say half of it, is spent on Argus testing this new dimension portal thing they got on their hands. And we had theorized that like they might try and go through the other dimensions and that maybe that would lead to Keith coming back or Rick Flag Sr. seeing his son again. But
Neither
now
of those arcs were
yeah,
explored.
purely explorational.
And I mean, the dimension played a big role in this episode, so obviously it will be around in the future. There's room for these things to happen. I mean, the Rick Flag seems unlikely, but yes, I mean, Keith can be a factor, of course, though he did not show up in this episode.
No.
But yeah, I was kind of confused why they like had them all up in like hazmat suits and everything, because I was like, I mean, Hardcore can attest they've just been in there already. And it's not a big deal. And then we found out that they're testing doors and they're like trying to like figure out what's inside each of them. And my like initial reaction was like, why? Like just all these other universes and you can't just like leave them be. And like I stuck with that because the first door that we see them open is like this really like kind of cutesy live action like Candyland
Oh,
sort
totally,
of.
yeah.
And then we get that classic like Jurassic Park raptors in the wheat kind of like rustling, and they're like, what is that? But they like continue to stand there and stare at it. And it's just these like cute little like candy gremlins.
Yeah, that part was literally like the most action we see in the entire episode.
Yeah.
This episode was not action heavy compared to the season 1 finale, which had very bombastic action. It was very fun. This episode was a lot more reserved, and it worked for it. Like, it was very heavy, very well done. Just, yeah, factually, I would say that scene is the most action heavy this episode gets.
Oh, for sure. And I had my mind on that comment you made last time about James Gunn saying that this final episode, along with, episode 6, were like what he considers like some of his most peak work. And there were moments throughout the episode that I was like, I don't know, like it's not a crazy amount is happening. It just feels like a lot of people talking. And we finally got to the end, and I see now what he was talking about. I mean, he did a really great job tying up loose ends with emotional arcs. I mean, there is a lot going on here, but you're right, it's not action heavy, which we got to experience at the end of last season.
For sure. Because we see the beginning of them doing that, and then it cuts away for a little bit, but then it goes back to kind of like a montage of them just testing different dimensions. And there's like this contrast of you have these people in the lab working the portals, which we got more cameos of Lex Luthor's like henchmen computer guys from Superman.
Yeah,
which
we
was
get kind of like the team lead, and Vector's back again.
Yeah.
And a couple others, I believe. But there's like this stark difference because, I mean, Rick Flag is not being clear with these employees about why they're doing this.
Yeah.
What they're telling them, right, is just, it's like resources, another planet, why not? And that, makes like cerebral sense. It's like, it's like
checks out.
Interplanetary exploring. I mean, that's like the basis of a lot of sci-fi movies, but you just, in this case, don't have to go into space. But people are dying, like, in really gruesome ways. After, like, this Candyland death, they really, wind up this montage, and it's brutal, and oh my gosh, like, the editing is so tight on this where it kind of shows almost like a villain arc for Rick Flag, where he is like becoming one of the Lex gang,
Totally
chumming it up with his like henchmen essentially, and these people are like dying and screaming and crying, and
they're like,
he could not care less.
Yeah, they're just like partying almost.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, it's kind of dark, and we'll kind of get into the ramifications of that, and maybe like the arc and what that means for him in the future. But what they cut back to in between this is just the gang kind of being down. I mean, Peacemaker's in prison; they're trying to reach him and they can't. So we have we have John and Harcourt seeing that Eagly is depressed, which is really sad.
Yeah,
just like head down in a corner,
right.
And Vigilante is having a crazy hard time. He is hiding out in his cocaine bunker, and
Playing the Switch.
it kills me. It kills me that every interaction with his mom is him just like losing his crap because he like hates her for no, like, it's such 12-year-old boy energy.
Seriously.
So yeah, him just like screaming at this actress, and then Ads comes in and tries to like cheer him up. And she gives him like a hell of a pep talk, I will say.
Yeah, Adebayo has a lot to do in this episode. She goes and talks to her wife, and it's a very well done scene where they're kind of like, we love each other, but our paths are very different. So maybe it's best that we're not together anymore.
Yeah, when you talk about like flexing their acting muscles, I mean, Adebayo got to shine in this, and it was really excellent.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it turns out she bails Peacemaker out and he just immediately disappears. So that's a problem for him.
Yeah, and I love that freak out because Peacemaker shows up to grab Eagly, and Economos sees him, and then Peacemaker's like, "I'm out," and Economos is pretty conflict averse, so he just let him go, and then it cuts immediately to them being like, "You just let him go," and they're like freaking out on him.
Right.
Um, and yeah, they then cut back to Argus, and we at least find out that the reason that they are searching through dimensions, I mean, they make little hints and mentions about Lex kind of pulling the strings from prison.
Yeah.
Here Lex's notes from your findings, all those kinds of things, and we find out that like it is kind of the same plot of Superman, but like on a bigger scale. It's like Star Wars, like how they did the Death Star, but then they made an even bigger one.
Well, yeah, because like in Superman, he had like a interdimensional prison where no one could reach him, right? And they can't escape. Solid plan, for sure. This new planet they find called Planet Salvation, they present to the government being like, we can send metahumans here and it's perfectly livable. They can make a life, but they're just no longer on Earth.
Right, they're absolutely removed from us.
Which, like, hey, I get it. That's cool. But I don't know. The guy brings up a good point where he's telling Rick Flag, like, you've done like a 180, bro. Like,
Yeah, in the last month, you were like, originally just like, Lex is a bad dude.
yeah,
Like, why are we listening to him? And now you are like, well, he literally called him like his puppet, right? Lex is like kind of pulling the strings and you're advocating for him. And he is. I think that's another neat part about the writing behind Rick Flag Sr.'s character is there's like kind of two motivations pulling. There's like this seasoned veteran kind of like maniacal kind of energy where like, it's just for the good of the country, that kind of power, but also like this just deep dark hatred of like from a very emotional place, right? And that comes to one like very scary man.
yeah. No, and Bordeaux is definitely like jumping ship at this point.
You can tell, and once again, excellent montage. They make it very clear that she is not on board with
Yeah.
what's happening here. And this comes to her reaching out to Harcourt.
Yeah, and they get Adebayo involved and they work together. She's part of the team now, which is kind of cool because she's got some pretty sweet powers. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. But
Yeah. And this is where I'm in school right now studying editing, and I'm just a big fan of how they played out this episode. It felt very satisfying the way that they laid the story out. But we get this, Sasha approaches Harcourt. Harcourt brings in Adebayo. She's kind of has like this almost music montage where she's explaining things and you can't hear what she's saying, but you have Harcourt walk into the other room and she goes to the mirror. And that's where we see that she has the ticket stub from the cruise tucked into the mirror,
yeah.
which is such an excellent reveal to, first of all, pull us back into that story and also show that, before this line that comes easily 20 minutes later, that the cruise did mean something to her.
She cares enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great review. Anyways, just big fan of that planting and
Totally.
that moment. And yes, we get them back on the cruise ship and the finish to that montage, which leads quite neatly into them trying to find Peacemaker again.
Yeah, and I for a second was like, how are they gonna find him? But then once they got Bordeaux into the lab and she was doing stuff on the computer, I was like, oh, duh, he still has the bomb in his neck from the Suicide Squad. He can just find,
Right. That's
they just
always been
track it.
an
Yeah,
easy way. And it is it's something they consistently do in like multiple episodes each season, but it always makes me laugh showing what a dumpster fire Economos' social skills are.
totally.
Oh my
Especially when he's
gosh.
trying to be like cool headed, like undercover, you know?
It's so dumb, and I can just imagine how much fun they're having trying to write for just a completely socially inept individual trying to like lie or be covert or anyways. Great character. I love what they've done with that, and I thoroughly enjoyed him trying to like distract them while they find the location of Peacemaker.
Right. And once they do find him, I'd say this is kind of the climax of the episode easily is you have all of his friends confront kind of like an intervention of Chris at the motel, and they just tell him how important he is and that they're his friends and that they care about him. And it's a really moving scene. It's really well done. And I don't know, like I'm happy with the way that played out.
It felt very thorough and yeah, well done. Like I wasn't dissatisfied with any of the outcomes of that. A very emotionally charged scene, which I was blown away because Adebayo, with like tears in her eyes, was able to say, "I saw an eagle hug a human," which I
Right.
think is a kind of a funny line, and it was like a funny plot point originally. And she was able to have kind of that comedic like, man, like I believe in miracles kind of feel,
Yeah,
right? Just
yeah.
like over the top energy. But this is like a really deeply emotional moment where she said that, and once again, props to the actress on this.
No, she killed it. This scene was her scene. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, we get hardcore kind of like being real with Peacemaker for a moment where she's opening up just a little bit where yes, like I care about you. Obviously, we're not positive in this moment. There's all these signs pointing towards yes, but we're still unsure about whether she means this romantically. And he's kind of like, yeah, like I'm not cursed and I do like you guys and we can do this together. And everybody's leaving and that's when he kind of pulls her aside, right? And that was a great moment.
Yeah. And, she says, yeah, it meant everything. And we get the intro to Oh Lord by Foxy Shazam, which is the like title sequence, right? And we get a montage
And it's
of,
so happy.
oh man, 1 week later.
Oh
And
my gosh. Well, and it starts off with Peacemaker dancing, just happy that he got this news from Hardcore, which is
totally.
delightful. And then a week later,
Yeah. And they're going to this Foxy Shazam concert. They're dancing. They're all enjoying each other's company. They've started like their own business, which is really fun. And that seems right, you know?
oh yeah.
It seems like a natural conclusion, but yeah, everything just feels so happy. And it fades to black, and I thought the episode was over. I was like, okay, happy ending, right? And then it cuts back to Chris like coming home or whatever, and he gets tackled and arrested. And this cliffhanger that I want to spend some time on is Rick Flag Sr. sends Peacemaker to the Salvation Planet as like a quote unquote test subject, but it's really just revenge. I Okay. I can understand the argument of a Peacemaker season 3 being iffy. However, I think the only way cuz okay, ideally, I would imagine in my head if someone was telling me the end of Peacemaker was like season 2, there won't be a Peacemaker season 3 probably, right? Like it's iffy.
hmm
I would imagine that Peacemaker season 2 would end on a note where I'm like, yeah, I could see them doing more if they wanted to, but it's like wrapped up, right?
Right. Kind of the way that Peacemaker season 1 was.
Exactly, right? But that is not the case. This is like textbook, you know, end of a season cliffhanger for a new season of TV. And I don't see it really continuing unless they make a third season or if that salvation planet comes into play in a later movie. However, if that's the case, then I feel like they'd be going back on their promise of you don't have to have seen the TV shows to understand the movies and vice versa.
Right. I have a couple of theories.
Okay, let's hear it.
One, when it comes to Salvation Planet, I feel like they could obviously just go with a little montage or a something something to be all like, hey, this is what happened. Rick Flag is a character we're aware of, and they really could just do that cut back to like, this is what happened. We had no need to see Suicide Squad before this. The amount of times that they've shown Rick Flag Jr. being killed, the amount of I mean, they completely retconned the Justice League ending in that first one, right? I mean, they kind
Yeah.
of will hand it to you, which I don't hate.
That's fair. Okay.
Also, when it comes to Peacemaker being like trapped, I very much saw this as the ending to Ant-Man 2, where it was pretty much this same thing, where it's like the whole movie, and then there's like an after credit scene where he gets trapped in another dimension. He's like, guys, and it's like
Yeah.
Infinity War, and we're all like losing our minds. They're dust. What could possibly happen? And he ends up being a big role in a big movie. And I could see that being the case for Peacemaker.
Yes. But Ant-Man 2 is also a movie, not a TV show.
And that's fair.
But I get what you're saying.
I think just when it comes to storylines, I could see them really neatly wrapping that into the movie side of things without giving Peacemaker like another season. Because when it comes to everything else, it can contribute to the universe, but I wouldn't say outside of that scene, there needs to be like a lot more development in like these stories, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and they also technically could still keep it in the TV shows. Like, I that'd be crazy. But the Lantern show in some crazy world could maybe tie that in. I don't really know. And like you said, I guess it wouldn't be that bad if, we see Rick Flag Sr. in a movie and we get a little, like you said, flashback of why he hates Peacemaker and he sent Peacemaker to salvation. And most people would be okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it was one of those things where like I was promised like a neat bow tie ending,
You were confused by this,
and
like
I was getting that until
this
the last
almost
like
like
2 minutes.
hasty, yeah.
And it just kind of really felt like I don't know. I still enjoyed it. I'm not dissing on it.
I totally
I'm
get
taking
where
it
you're
back.
coming from, though.
I'm taking it back. That's all.
It's jarring,
Yeah.
which I find hilarious because the same thing that the Superman movie did this season did, where like the actual after credit scenes are like meaningless but like cute and fun.
Yeah.
Right. We get more of like Economos stammering and the Secretary of Defense from Superman offering like a really wild suggestion
Right.
about the Salvation Planet. And right, they mean nothing. They're just kind of like comedic cherries on top. But yes, like this little like 3-minute sequence just like tucked in the middle of there was like, whoa.
Yeah. I don't know. It would be. I do like the comparison to Ant-Man 2, where the movie wraps up nicely, and then they throw in this extra thing that makes you want to watch the next. Like, and it feels. I don't know how I feel about this. Ask me again in like a week, right? But
That's fair. And we can definitely talk more about it. I hope they explore more of it, even if there's not a new season. I mean, they really can't just leave him stranded there and just be like, that was the end of Peacemaker, remember?
no, because they said like, oh yeah, and like the characters can continue in other ways. Like,
I think there's some tie-ins here, and they're really leaning into this like dimensional aspect between Superman and this season being like a role in the DC universe. So I'm excited to see where they take it. But now that I think about it, with Keith as well, it seems strange that they would be unsure about a new season of Peacemaker.
That's kind of my thinking here. Is like, obviously it's because they said they weren't sure if there'd be a Peacemaker season 3.
Right.
Is why I'm like so taken aback, because it seems like they were pretty sure there's gonna be, the way the story has been going.
It feels natural in that sense. And even if they hadn't said anything about it up until this point, I mean, I probably would have assumed, yeah, we're definitely up for another one. But
Yeah,
I
we'll
I
see.
feel like I haven't been failed by James Gunn thus far. I tend to have a lot of trust for him. He's a pretty strong story writer, and I feel like they've done a pretty excellent job. So I will remain cautiously optimistic, but you bring up some valid points.
No, and you do as well. Like I could see them pulling it off. And I'm sure they will. They wouldn't have done something like this without a plan.
So
I just want to
drastic.
know what that plan is.
Oh, for
You know what I
sure.
mean?
For sure.
I'm dying. But yeah,
Yeah, a couple of the things I wanted to mention. It was really fun to see the band of the title sequence, Foxy Shazam,
totally.
because they have them back on the cruise watching another concert, and it's just the band playing the theme song, and they got like a really wild look and a fun energy, and I think that added to that happy montage most excellently. Like it was a great look, and also they've built like a really fun team. The organization that they started was called Checkmate,
Yeah.
which I looked up. I've never heard of this before, but this is canon.
No kidding.
Yeah, this is an organization that is started by government officials that, kind of kicked off. They call it like an anti-hero squad because they're just people that were
Wow.
tired of what, the I say the Amanda Wallers of the world, though hilariously enough, she was one of the founding members in the comic books.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but yeah, Sasha Bordeaux. I mean, that's like the whole. They're all part of like the
Ah,
Checkmate series, which is fun. So I like that. That's like an actual thing.
that is really cool. That's a deep cut.
Yeah. Once again, James Gunn is excellent at those. So I love that he's bringing it out, even the DC universe. So a fun organization, and they have like a very stacked and zany crew, and they've added some of like the better characters that used to be, opposing the Peacemaker gang, right? Like obviously we got Sasha Bordeaux, we got Langston, who
Yeah.
I love that they're keeping him in to some capacity because he is hilarious. He's the worst. I love him.
Oh, yeah.
We got Judo Master
Judo
and the original
Masters.
gang, and it's looking like kind of a stacked lineup.
Yeah. Definitely hope we get a follow up. And if we don't, it's sad, but yeah, such a good cast right there.
So all in all, how would you rate season 2 as a sequel to season 1?
I'd give like both seasons would be like a 9 out of 10 for me. Like super good. Loved every minute of it. I'm just having a great time. Yeah. I mean, I can't necessarily recommend it to everyone, which isn't a downside at all,
It's
but
more of just an acquired taste, really.
for sure, I just think, yeah, really fun. And I'm sure this season will be just as rewatchable as the first season was.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure when I rewatch it, I'll pick up on things and I'll be able to appreciate it more. That I'm excited about. But what about you?
I'm with you there. Had a ton of fun with this season, and it feels like an easy recommend, especially if people were into season 1. Holy cow. I mean, this feels like a very natural sequel to that. It's definitely more on the emotional end, which I didn't hate. It was not that it was less silly goofy, but there were a lot more like serious moments where they were really like fleshing out kind of the heart and soul of some of these characters, like the roots of their being, and it went really well.
It's definitely more mature, which, like I said, I know I'm beating a dead horse here. If there was a season three, it would be following the trilogy structure of you have the fun first season where it's introducing the characters, and then the second season or movie per se, you still have fun, but it enters in a lot more like serious themes, a lot more mature ideas, and they flesh them out. And they end with the hero like flat on their butts. And then the third installment will have them rising above and defeating the big bad guy. Like, look at the Star Wars trilogy. That's what that does. The Last Airbender, those 3 seasons, The Lord of the Rings. I'm just saying, like,
Trilogies are really strong for
that's
a
the
reason.
structure.
Totally.
And this is following that structure. Again, very surprised there's not a season three for sure.
Confirmed. Obviously, there's still chance for it. What would your thoughts be if they did not have a season 3, but instead opted for a Checkmate movie?
Kind of like the Mandalorian and Grogu move.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. Obviously, it'd be fun to see on the big screen. I would be chilling with that.
Do you feel
Yet
like
again, I feel like it would possibly bleed into that area of like, do you have to have seen the show to understand what's going on?
and that's fair. I mean, he made a big point about that. And now that I think about it, that's kind of a hard promise to keep
Very.
when you have, yeah, like so many characters that tie into a big universe. I mean,
Especially like something like Lanterns, where that's like a staple of the Justice League.
yeah,
And he's just going to show up. And granted, he's technically already been introduced in Superman. So that's kind of like an okay, it's like Guy Gardner, but different. So I guess that works.
there's
That was
room for it. But I mean, to be like strictly like you don't have to have seen anything, you do have to do a certain amount of kind of recapping the old stuff or whatnot, I mean, you can obviously avoid like the really hardcore Marvel approach where you absolutely have to have seen this stuff because they aren't explaining or hinting at anything. They just expect you to have seen it, right? Everybody's on the same page, right?
Totally.
And not everybody is all the time. So it can be confusing at times, but I feel like there's room for that in the DC universe for them to build in kind of that accessibility for people who aren't in the know on everything or who just like a silly, goofy, wholesome Superman and hate like the crude cursing, like almost like absurdist humor of Peacemaker.
Right. Yeah, you can pick what tastes you enjoy, you know.
Totally. But once again, I think that will be a strength of James Gunn's because when it comes to the Superman movie, talked to many people who aren't really comic book fans, had never even seen a Superman film at all, and thoroughly enjoyed this one. Didn't feel confused. They were brought into the character and the story and just felt right at home. It was like just an excellent action movie.
Yeah. No, you're right. They have a way of making everyone feel included. So maybe it's like the curse of knowledge. Like I'd be so curious to know what it would be like going into a movie that has supplemental knowledge from seeing the TV show, but do I have to have seen it, right? Like,
For sure.
yeah.
For sure. You kind of have that bias going into it. I'm a big fan of what they're doing right now, so it seems unlikely that I'm going to be missing movies or shows, so I guess I won't have that perspective, but
Exactly.
we'll have to keep an eye on that because that is kind of a promising promise that he made, that it can be kind of segmented. I think people liked the idea of that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I also wanted to talk about Rick Flag and kind of where we'll think he'll end up because it seems like he's a pretty integral character still, right? He's in a place of power. He's made a deal with Lex Luthor, placing him also in a place of power now. And it seems like he's going to be at the heart of things, at least on the governmental side of things. He is kind of the face of this operation.
Yeah, I feel like if nothing else, he'll kind of be the face of the TV side of things because as of right now in the DCU, the two shows we have had released are Creature Commandos and Peacemaker season 2, and he's
He
a
was a
prominent
big deal
character.
in both, totally.
Exactly. So I wonder if he'll be more of like a kind of like in the Superman movie where he's there, but you really like he's more of a TV show presence, right? That's my best guess. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, you bring up a good point. And when his character is on like such a political side of things, obviously he has like this emotional background and whatnot. But I feel like it's easier to flesh out these kind of dynamics over a show because you have multiple episodes to, uncover a story and things like that. I mean, he did have a lesser role in Superman. You're right. He can be just more of a presence but he's not going to be like the most main character because there's superhero movies and they get really boring when you only focus on like the politics.
Oh, absolutely.
I am curious though, what do you think about his character arc? Because he is kind of a villain now.
Yeah, it's tough because in Creature Commandos, he's like super cool headed, awesome protagonist. And then in Superman, he's kind of like just there.
Mm-hmm.
In this, he goes from being, as we've discussed,
Well,
like
and
very cool headed. Sorry, go on.
no, I would argue he's almost a bit of a sympathetic character in Superman because he does give him that line as he's putting him in the other dimension, like, I'm sorry about this, man. Like, you don't deserve to be treated like this, but this is the way that it's going. I mean, he was fighting Lex
That's
initially.
true. Yeah, exactly. To your point. And then in this, he's very calm, collected, very strategic about his stuff. It's really only been in this episode where it feels like you said, over the course of that montage, he went from being calculated to, I don't know, villain is not the right word. Maybe he doesn't feel as bad about it because he's not killing Chris. He's kind of just like, there are plenty of resources on this planet. Like, you'll survive. It just won't, I will never have to see you again.
Right. Like his energy is more like, at least during that montage, is like, I would say ignorantly malicious. And then once he gets to Chris, you kind of get that personal tone to it, but also it is his way of tying up a loose end.
Totally. So like definitely room for him to still be a good guy, but it's grim.
Grim is a good word for it when he just kind of appears to be one of Lex's lackeys. Dude, break it down. Let's do it.
No, I don't know. I feel like I'm bummed. Like I don't know. It is smart. I just wish maybe in this episode we'd have gotten just a bit more of him like, oh, like I really hate Chris, or like at the beginning when we could have gotten something of them bringing him into the station or whatever in the last episode. This sounds silly, but I felt like I needed something in this episode to tie it back to Chris, because the whole episode it was more about finding this prison, which wasn't really revealed until the end. And then it's like, oh, okay, like he's just on Lex's side. But then I understand everything surrounding why he would put Peacemaker in there. I
But
don't know.
it's kind of like when they have a planting and they mentioned it forever ago. They haven't like reminded you of it, and then you're just like, oh wait, yeah. Okay, I
Yeah.
actually agree with you on that because the last mention we got of that was Bordeaux confronting him about the Peacemaker case and how he's like too close on it, and he's like, hey, don't worry about it.
Like in episode 5? It was
It
episode
might have
5.
been 4 or 5, yeah. Like it was earlier on, and then they just get their little romantic arc. She completely drops it. It's never really mentioned again, and we get that like crisp moment where he's staring him down at the end of last episode. But you're right, we got like none of this like that like I want to beat him to death energy that we got earlier on in the season, which was dark and awesome, but there hasn't
Like
really
I
been
said,
mention of it.
yeah, like it's not like a, what's the word? It's not like lost on me why he chooses what he does. It was just kind of that jar. And of course, it's also surrounded by the jarring nature of the scene as a whole.
Right.
But just that idea of like, oh, yeah, like that's a thing. Okay. Again, it's probably just surrounded also by that scene that I've talked to death about. But
Well, I'm curious, just as we were going into that scene, did you see that coming? Because, I mean, they put him in the truck.
yeah, the
And
second they put him in the truck,
my
I
gut
was like,
reaction
oh,
was
I
like,
bet.
I mean, it's probably Rick Flag, but, you know, they may be like bringing Waller back into it. There could be something like a twist. And then they're back at the portal place and the Lex gang is there. And I'm like, well, obviously it's going to be
Yeah,
Rick
that would have
Flag.
been a cool. You have a great imagination, dude. The second I was like, dude,
I
he's
mean,
getting
it was
stuck in that
Argus gang.
portal.
Obviously, it would have to be him, but I thought they were going to get more creative with it. So I was like, all right, it's Rick Flag. And then obviously the scene. But in that moment, were you just like, are they really going to do this?
Yeah, yeah. For all the reasons I've stated before, I'm sure. Ask me tomorrow. I'll probably be chilling. But raw moment right now, I'm like, I loved it. Asterisk. You know what
Right,
I
just
mean?
unsettled about that one moment.
Yeah,
That's fair. And once again, I would love to discuss this more as we get more projects from the James Gunn universe. But
for sure. If you guys are wondering what we're going to be doing now that Peacemaker is over, we've decided, because we very recently watched Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman, we thought we would just continue and go through the whole DCEU. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know there's a couple of films that you missed out on, so those will be fun to cover. And also, there's a lot there, and there's a lot of comparisons we can make. And at the end of it, we can honestly have a whole episode dedicated to like what went right, what went wrong,
absolutely.
what do we hope gets done better, you know.
That is a big discussion, is kind of Zack Snyder's universe and what are the pros and cons.
Totally. So that'll be a lot of fun because, boy, do we have thoughts.
I'm looking forward to it. And we are starting off, I don't want to say like strongly, but we're starting off with Suicide Squad, the original.
Yeah, because it came out the same year as Batman versus Superman, and yeah, that'll probably be a longer episode if I'm being honest. We'll probably have a lot to talk about.
I feel like a lot went wrong in that. But granted, I saw it a long time ago and I'm excited for a rewatch. I feel like I tend to have better things to say when I'm not like so almost we'll get into it.
Yeah,
But
kind of that like hindsight, like yeah,
you
'cause
have
it's
the
been a while.
story, you get to like kind of re-experience it. So I am looking forward to the rewatch.
Yeah, it'll be good. We are gonna take a break, so next week there won't be an episode, but the week after that, we'll be right back with Suicide Squad. But yeah, it's a good time. Well, I appreciate you guys sticking to the end. Again, we'll see you in a couple weeks, but we've been having a great time talking about Peacemaker. We hope you've had a great time listening, and we'll see you next time.
Catch you then.